Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Howard from the Department of Teaching and Learning within the School of Education at the University of Redlands. And today I'm going to talk a bit with you about FlipGrid and how I use it in my class and maybe offer some tips for how you might consider using it with your students. So we're already on the website here. There are some options for setting up if you don't already have a FlipGrid account. You set it up by using the blue Educator Sign Up button on the top right-hand side or the red educator sign up button in the middle of the page. I have an account, so I am going to use educator login at the top right-hand side. And I have now on my screen the option to either log in using my Google login or my Microsoft login. I use the Microsoft login. This allows me to select my Redlands email name, first name underscore last name at redlands.edu. That comes up. I click there. If my password is not already entered, I'll be prompted to enter my Redlands password in order to prepare my FlipGrid experience. Once your FlipGrid experience appears, you see my grids. The first thing I want to do today is have you add a new grid just to kind of talk you through that. Now, before I do that, I do want to highlight that there is a getting started guide. So if there's anything that you want to explore further, I would recommend checking out the getting started guide. It may help a bit as far as just some quick tips on how to get started and doing some other things that I might not cover. So we'll add a new grid. FlipGrid is fairly user-friendly. I like to name my grid according to the class that I'm teaching. And I use the semester and the year just so that it's easier for me to remember, but also I make this easier for my students to figure out what they're doing and where they need to go. Also, I select school email. This requires students to also use their Microsoft, or I should say their Redlands email accounts, so they can use their Redlands username and log in just in the same way I did to access our FlipGrid. Down here, I change the last part of the URL to match the name of the grid. Again, this is helpful for me and helpful for the students. Click Next. And if you have been using FlipGrid, you may have already set up the domain. If not, your screen will look like this. So you'll want to enter in the redlands.edu domain and add that. This is also important, not just for checking to make sure that your students have gained access, but also to protect them, to protect their privacy and making sure that no one outside of our Redlands domain has access to the students' FlipGrids. Click Next. And now my FlipGrid is ready. I can copy the link and share this through my announcements board in Moodle. I can also use the embed code here to actually embed this FlipGrid in Moodle. I can share it on Teams. I can share it on Google Classroom if I have my G Suite all set up through the University of Redlands. And there's also an option to share on Remind, which we hopefully will touch on Remind later. Now I'm going to go ahead and go to the FlipGrid, and you see that there are some things already in place here. You can change this image if you'd like by using the pencil icon. You'll notice if I select Actions, this is where allows me to edit the full grid, which is the same as clicking the pencil icon here. I can add a co-pilot. What this means is I can add someone else to share in the load of setting up these grids, and it might be that I add in another professor who's teaching another section of the same course, and maybe we want our students to collaborate and talk across classes. So I can add a co-pilot, which gives them the same permissions that I have over this particular grid. I can also duplicate the grid later. So if I set up my grid and I add in a topic, which we'll go over next, each week, if I have like 14 topics set up, and these are things that I expect to ask students in future classes too, that's where duplicating the grid becomes useful. You'll also see that you can set up notifications. You can also integrate your grid in with Teams, and you can also export data or delete the grid. Of course, we're careful using that one, especially if students have already started responding. So adding a new topic is fairly simple. There are different reasons why you'd add a new topic. I already mentioned you can add a new topic because maybe you want a different response or a different prompt for students each week. So you can name them by week 1, week 2, and so forth. I might also add topics centered around the readings. So I may have a smaller number of flip grids because I really want just this deep engagement around maybe 5 core readings. I could also set up topics around groups. So I can set up student groups. Maybe I have 5 topics is what they're called, but I would name them by group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, and that would be the space I'd expect each group to come to have dialogue, conversation around the different topics that we're addressing each week. So before I click on add a new topic, I just want to show you this one that they have set up for us already because I like to use it. It's right there. It's got some tips for students on how they actually post their first FlipGrid or their first video to FlipGrid. So I don't change much on this. Say hello on our class FlipGrid. Welcome to our class FlipGrid. And I leave the tip here on how to do that. Say hello, share a fun fact about yourself. Sometimes I do change that and I ask them to share something about their background, or I leave the fun fact and add more. I can also change the amount of time set. So you can give them 15 seconds, which is very short, but you can give them 15 seconds to respond to something. You can go up to as much as 10 minutes of time allowed to respond to a prompt. Of course, that's helpful if I want someone to give an analytical response to something. Of course, more time would be needed. Video moderation, this is helpful if you'd like to maybe ask something where you want students' initial reactions before hearing from other students. So you can use the video moderation option. But this, of course, does require you to monitor your FlipGrid because before the students can actually see each other's responses, you have to go in and activate each video. So as I scroll down, you can see here where I can add different media in order to excite or engage students. So this one already has one in place, so I'm only given the option to delete the focus. You can actually upload your own or change it there. There's some other things here you can do. I can add a link to a Google Doc. If I want students to look over a set of slides or look over something that I've created, if there's a YouTube video I want students to watch first before they respond on the FlipGrid, you can enter a URL for a YouTube video here. There's also the option to link a document from Dropbox. You can also add OneNote items. So as I mentioned before, I believe FlipGrid is very user-friendly, so there are all kinds of tips. As you scroll down, you'll see here for different things that you can actually do. You can set the timing of when your FlipGrid is available. The video features in this category, you'll notice that by default, they turn the likes option off. This is the option that would allow students to like each other's videos as they listen to each other. So you can turn that on if you'd like. And then you do have the option, of course, to delete the topic. This is, of course, helpful later if you realize you posted an extra topic that you don't need. This is where you go to actually delete it. But I am clicking on update the topic because I've made changes to the say hello on our class FlipGrid. So now it's ready to go. Students will just read the information here and then they'll tap on the green option to add a response. So one more thing I'd like to show you just as we're navigating this page. So you see this is my topic. My topic is say hello on your class FlipGrid. Let's say I want to go back to add more. I just have to use the link right behind, and now here I am. And I can go ahead and add another new topic by clicking that button, the red button again. You'll notice because I had a focus option before, I don't have a focus option now. I can now choose. This is where you can upload an image. I can add an emoji. You see here, I can add the YouTube video right in this space. I can upload. This is where I can post my own video initially to initiate the conversation. So you have many different options here of things that you can actually bring in as the focus for your Flipgrid. And so hopefully I've shared enough just to get you started using Flipgrid. And don't forget to use the Getting Started guide if you have any questions about the basics, or even if you're just looking to explore a little bit more.